Hey everyone, this is Corey Mills. My facilitation is on the chapter in our text on racially and culturally diverse students and families. So, kind of the introduction, what it all just started off by saying is culture is defined as those values, beliefs, attitudes, and norms unique to a group bound by race, gender, location, religion, or social class. It is the collective consciousness of a community with its own unique customs, rituals, communication style, coping patterns, social organization, and childbearing attitudes and patterns. So really, I just wanted to read that verbatim because I feel like it is such a slap in the face of a reminder of the fact that when we have culturally diverse students in our classrooms, it's not just a group of students that come from different places. It's students whose culture is so deep-rooted in things such as beliefs, lifestyles, ways of doing things, not just simply where they're from. So I think because of that, one of the obstacles to the full development of talent in our society is that we have yet to make the most of the potential and abilities of racially and culturally diverse students. And I think that's such a powerful statement. So you can obviously see some statistics in terms of what percentage of the U.S. population is different cultures at that time. So what the U.S. Census projects is by 2050 that 52% of students will be Latino. So I'll just let you kind of look through the statistics on your own. So as we move forward, I really just kind of put in some of the figures in the text for us to look at the comparison between different cultural groups. So the book kind of compares first American Indian students versus the white American values and traditions. So something I thought was interesting was their cultural values. And in the book, it talks about how in different tribes, even within the different tribes, they still share very similar core values. And something that is particularly important to American Indians is the idea of collective identity, and how one belongs to the tribe versus the white American idea that we have our own individual identity. And so something that's also noted is their values in idealism, their non-aggressiveness, and non-materialism, which a lot of that actually kind of obviously contradicts the white American way of doing things. And I loved how it specifically talked about the Navajo conception of giftedness and how it includes talent for working in the crafts or performing in cultural rituals. So obviously that is not something that can be tested in traditional standardized tests. So I thought that was a very interesting comparison. So moving on, it then gave a figure for African American students compared to white American students. And something that it talked about in their cultural characteristics and values, it talked about how they are just extremely socially oriented, and they have this need to bond with others who share similar concerns and interests. And so something that I've seen a lot of us kind of talk about in our discussion posts is how African American students will claim that their peers are, quote, acting white. And so the book actually goes into that a little bit, just talking about how if there is a predominantly white gifted program, how African American students might limit themselves or avoid interacting with their white peers because, I'm trying to find the direct quote, they may deliberately exert little effort in school because it is associated with the white culture. So I think that's interesting that we've all actually seen that play out in our classrooms. So then moving on to the Hispanic students. Personally, I come from a school that has a very high Hispanic population, so I was really interested reading through this information. And in the educational section, it talked about how teachers' beliefs about foreign language plays a role in their inability to see verbal strengths of these students. And so kind of the irony of the fact is that we're looking at students who are multilingual. And in and of itself, that should be considered gifted. Yet students who speak two languages tend to be poorly identified because of their lack of verbal abilities in English. So I do find that very interesting and unfortunate. And then the book goes on to talk about Asian American students. And I thought it was interesting looking at their cultural values. It mentioned mature self-control, kind of the Confucian ethic, a strong work or achievement ethic, and strong family bonds. And so obviously these are all very different and unique traits within different cultures. And so obviously having a blend of these cultures in our classrooms can prove to be a little difficult and challenging when we're trying to educate these students. So that being said, it leads me to the discussion questions. Specifically, what are your specific classroom demographics like? Like I said, I come from a school that has a very high Hispanic population. It's about 55%. And I've got about 10% African American students, the rest being Caucasian. Number 2, how does the knowledge of each culture's beliefs and priorities guide your instruction? What are we doing now that we know this information? And then number 3, what are some specific strategies that you could use in your classroom to ensure that you are educating each culture sufficiently? We want to make sure we're obviously not leaving anyone behind, and that we're hitting the need of each student in our classroom, no matter what their culture might be. So those are my sources. Thank you very much.